Good day, and welcome to Merry Christmas and Murder. Meet Trolleytown. It was late in the evening by the time I got back to my Airbnb. Only two interviews and more questions than answers. It didn't feel like much progress today. I sat on the bed and picked up the file, reviewing Leston's current undercover reporting assignment. In his phone, he had the jazz club with dates and times and interest notes. The authorities can't get into his computer according to the file, so no one knows what Leston was looking into. I decided I would check the jazz club out tomorrow before it opened. With not much else to do, I decided to go get some dinner down the road. I walked down to the local Chinese restaurant, Yang's Noodle House. The restaurant seemed a little empty, and I figured people must be at the town Christmas festival. Personal vision of hell for me. Opening the door to the restaurant, I saw an old Chinese man talking to a young girl that was crying at the bar. Take a seat, he said with a smile. I'll be right with you. I walked over to the other end of the bar and sat down. Shortly after, the elderly man walked over and asked, what can I get you? I'll take the Schwan hot pot and a spring roll with a Coke, I replied. Very good choice, sir, he said, walking into the kitchen. He vanished from view for a moment and then reappeared, walking back over to the girl, drawing my attention. I watched them for a moment, my brain working overtime as I realized the girl crying at the counter was Becky Witherworth. Sometimes lucky beats good, I muttered, feeling a smile come across my face. I sat quietly for a few minutes, waiting for my food to arrive, trying to think of a way to approach the girl. That's when I noticed she had stood up and was walking over to me. Mr. Stone? She asked before I could say anything. Mr. Yang says you are the detective looking into Leston's death. How would he know that? I asked. I just arrived last night. Becky smiled a big smile. Mr. Yang knows everything that goes on in Trolleytown, although I'm not sure how. Maybe magic. I was quiet for a moment before I spoke, breaking the silence. I'm a PI here looking into Leston's murder. I've been hired by his mother. His mother? She asked. He said she was poor and had little money. From what I have seen and my employment compensation, I would not call her poor, but that's beside the point. There must have been a reason he didn't tell me that, he said. Leston and I shared everything with each other. After a brief silence, I replied, well, Mrs. Witherworth, I had a pleasant conversation with your mother and father this morning, changing the subject. She laughed for a moment and then replied, pleasant conversation? You're either a poor PI or a liar. I hope a liar. I smiled as I went to reply. I was starting to like this girl. A liar, I said. Your father walked out of the room after some choice words from your mother and the threat of lawyers. It was interesting. With that said, may I ask you a few questions, Miss Witherworth? As long as you call me Becky, she said, going on. Leston and I were going to get married. He had just proposed. Okay, Becky. If I may, you mentioned that Leston and you shared everything. What do you know about his involvement with Nancy Dace? I asked. When Leston had proposed to me in secret on Thanksgiving, he had come clean to me about Nancy, telling me he had broke it off with her the Saturday before. Okay, then, so you have an alibi? I asked. Yes, she replied. My family has an employee appreciation dinner for everyone that works for my father. The cheap bastard handed out canned hams. That's sort of what your father said, except he left out his generous donation of the hams, I smirked. Everyone was there all night? I asked, probing further. Yes, everyone, she replied. Well, actually, everyone except for Leslie Handler, my father's ranch manager. She said she had a date and left around 10 p.m., although she didn't say who the date was with or where she was going. Did she know Leston? I asked. Not that I know of, she said. Besides Leslie, everyone stayed until 12:30 or 1 a.m. Shockingly, my father had opened the bar, I believe in an effort to appease my mother. So everyone stayed late to take advantage since they had only got a canned ham as a bonus. I asked a few more questions pertaining to the case, and all of Becky's answers indicated they were true based on what I knew. As I was getting ready to leave, she asked me if I could give her Leston's mother's contact information. I replied I could not disclose her information, but I could pass on Becky's information to Miss Arrow. I paid Mr. Yang for his delicious noodles and left.